In the next few minutes I'm going to give you an overview of Flipgrid. Hopefully that will allow you to imagine how you might be able to use this free app in your learning and teaching. I'll also show you how we used it and the feedback, good and bad, that we gathered from the students. The video sharing tool Flipgrid has recently been acquired by Microsoft and it's free to use. It's basically a video discussion experience that allows educators and learners to post their videos quickly and easily. Most of the videos are quite short, in fact the longest video is 10 minutes. Myself and my colleague Chris Carter first used Flipgrid back in November 2020, just as we moved into the second lockdown, and we had a mixture of students on campus with clinical teaching and some at home who were isolating. Students had been repeating a similar activity for a few weeks, and we'd set up a system of knowledge input, application of knowledge while developing the professional skills. We're aware of the summative assessment that was on the horizon, and some students were starting to become a little less active and show a little bit of anxiety around the formative assessment that we were due to cover in the coming weeks. We are aware that the curriculum needs to be relevant and maximum engagement is needed, and we signposted again the current block of learning to the summative assessment. We used Flipgrid primarily as a peer feedback opportunity, but with the option of adding some tutor feedback, which we did for most students. We gave basic instructions that were mapped to the minimum pass. We hope that through collaboration we can connect theory to practice and reinforce the deeper learning through reflection, and this maps with the instructional design concept. So while Flipgrid is app-based, there is also a website that supports the setting up of the topics in the first place. They can be set up from within the app, but it's easier using the desktop app because you can access different files to support the input of or setting up of the program in the first place, which I'll show you in a second. When you first go to Flipgrid, you can see that there's tens of thousands of topics already in existence that people share. We tend to just go to our own setup. We find it easier to structure around what we're trying to achieve more quickly. And so this takes you to the discussion area. The discussion area takes you to where you create your own content, and you can set up groups and topics. Topics are individual tasks. The groups represent your different tutor groups, module groups, whoever you're working with. Once you've decided to set up a topic, this is what it would look like. This is the tutor view, and you can see all the submissions that were made. There's 23 people in the group, and all 23 students submitted something for review. Very quickly I'll show you how to set things up. If you want to either update a topic or create a new topic, this is the page you're taken to. You give a short title, a quick introduction with some clear instructions of what you want the students to do. You can add in a media resource. This can be an image or a video or a Vimeo, YouTube link, whatever you like. In this case, this was a YouTube link. And then you decide on who you're going to allow access. In our case, we used the student email, and we just simply typed in student.sunderland. We also wanted staff to have access, so we typed in @sunderland.ac.uk. And as a backup, we allowed students to access through their Gmail account. Right at the start of the year, we asked students to set up a YouTube and a Gmail account because we knew we were going to be using Flipgrid, and we also asked them to download the app. Once you've set the basic instructions up, you decide on how you're going to moderate the topic. You can choose to moderate it yourself before anything is seen, or just allow the students to upload straight away, which is what we did. You can allow comments and video comments and text comments and likes, and you can set up initially the recording time. You can see from here the recording time is anything from 15 seconds through to 10 minutes, which we find is quite long enough. If you want to attach a second file, a rubric, or a set of instructions, this can be done here as well. And then you set the status to active and when you want to start and stop the activity. You can allow notifications both for yourself and for the students. And you can decide on how responses are made. You can give basic feedback, which is typing into onto the video, just as you would in social media. You can imagine an Instagram kind of feel to things that the students see, especially when it's loaded up on the mobile app, and likes and comments can be put in underneath. Or you can do custom feedback and build a rubric. Once you've done that, then you publish the topic and you send a QR code or a code to the students. In the student view, this is essentially what they will see if they're on a laptop. If they're in the app, rather than seeing a grid, they'll just simply see a video feed one after the other, as you would expect to see in social media such as Instagram. Very simple, very easy for the student to quickly record a response having read the instructions and watched any videos. If I give you a quick example of what one would look like, you click on here and you can see that in this situation we've got Ria who's doing a hand assessment. Some of the videos get more comments than others, some get more likes than others, and some get more views than others. You get a chance to single out maybe the good examples or maybe the bad examples, and you get an opportunity to actually create what's called a mixtape. And if you go back to the welcome page for Flipgrid, you can see mixtapes at the top, and that's where you can pull all of the good examples of videos together and allow the students access to those. Once we've been using Flipgrid for a couple of weeks, we suddenly realised that students were actually choosing to use it themselves for some of the activities that they were doing in the modules, so we decided that we'd grab some feedback. The negative side of the feedback was much more about how they felt themselves, about the difficulty listening to themselves. Some of them complained about the 5-minute cut-off and thought that we hadn't set them long enough for the task. Some people felt that there was added pressure in being videoed while they were doing it, and the only other negative was the fact that there was occasionally difficulties in Wi-Fi access, and loading and uploading videos could be quite slow. When the Wi-Fi was working fine, this was not a problem at all. In terms of the positives, the students felt it was different. They liked the idea that they were just moving away from the regular classroom activity. They liked the idea that quick feedback could be given both by themselves, by their peers, and by the tutors. In fact, added pressure again was mentioned, but as a positive this time. In fact, it made it feel more like real life to them. It allowed them to connect with the other group, because we had 2 groups which rarely see each other because of the COVID distancing, and they could see what the other group were doing as well, and they really enjoyed that idea. They were allowed to critique their own clinical reasoning. They felt as though this was a very engaging activity, not just as the people who were taking part, but the person who was filming, because we asked them to work in threes, was able to, as the camera holder, was able to engage and think for themselves, see things a little bit differently while they were observing. They picked up the idea that good reflection, self-critique was a definite skill that they're learning through the process. The opportunity to analyse others and pick up tips was highlighted. It allowed them to improve their timekeeping, knowing that in clinical practice they maybe wouldn't have as much time as they perhaps would have liked to conduct an assessment. They allowed them to correct their own performance, track progress, and see themselves getting better week by week. And they found it easy to navigate. It was quick, there were no excuses for opting out, it was very clear who was and who wasn't submitting, and there almost became a race to get their videos up quickly so feedback and likes could be given. Since Flipgrid is now owned by Microsoft, it's regularly updated, it's a secure and safe and easy platform to use. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found it useful.